right, so I want to welcome our guest today. We have Gary or Jim. Gary, if you're happy, Jim, if you're not. Just joking. And then we have Monica, and we're going to be talking about dating through the pandemic. So a couple of my guests here today have dated through the pandemic. As you know, it's been not such a great time during that year, well, during the pandemic, mainly because it's hard to, be socially distant, especially when dating. I've always wondered how that would work, if people were comfortable or they just didn't date at all. And it's interesting how the perspectives are of different people. So we thought we'd make it interesting and bring two completely different people in and talk about their experiences on dating through the pandemic. So Monica, she's got a lovely name, and she's got a lovely smile. I'm sure she has no problem finding dates.
You would think so.
Right? I have no idea. I don't know. Tell me a little bit. When did you date before the pandemic?
So I moved to Albuquerque at the end of 2018. I've been traveling for a while, and I did. It was really interesting kind of being dropped into Albuquerque and just scrambling to make as many friends as possible.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait, I want to know where you're from.
I grew up in California, in Southern California.
And you've never been to New Mexico before?
Well, I did my undergrad in Colorado.
Okay.
And I liked Colorado, but I always loved coming down to New Mexico. I think it's a lot more diverse, and it's so beautiful down here. I fell in love with New Mexico and decided to move here.
Well, welcome to New Mexico. I do find that New Mexico is quite different. Myself, I am not originally from here. However, I am now drawn to New Mexico. I feel like it's hard for me to leave because there's such magical things. I mean, the skies, it's just beautiful. Now, dating, I don't know. How's that going for you here in New Mexico? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I found that when I was first starting to date in New Mexico, I felt like everyone really knew each other and had already dated each other.
Oh my gosh.
Like all the friends I was making, what's the word? There's just a lot of overlap between who had already dated who, and a lot of warnings about certain people, not in a bad way, but just being like, it's hard to like pursue someone who your new friend has also dated.
But then again, there's also that defamation of character, because I don't know, what do you think? I mean, I don't really see how this particular person could date this person and you would have the same experience. I mean,
Absolutely.
People react to other people differently.
Absolutely.
So how did that go? Give me an example.
Gosh. Well, here's something that I've noticed about Albuquerque, Santa Fe dynamics is that, and I don't know if it's because it's a little bit smaller, but there seem to be a lot of like polyamorous relationships.
Oh, yes, I did hear about that.
Yeah, a lot of open relationships where couples maybe have been dating a long time, but then individually they date other people. And so I found that sometimes I'd be starting to meet somebody, and then I would find out that they were all, like, they're pretty transparent about it, but unless you're looking to be in a polyamorous relationship.
So for our audience information, because a lot of people may not know what that means, can you kind of give them a definition of what that's about?
I don't want to butcher it because there are a lot of nuances to polyamory, but it's also referred to as ethical non-monogamy, which is to say that you and your partner decide and consent to some sort of agreement about dating other people, whether it's you both date the same person or you individually, maybe there's like a particular gender that you both date. It really varies from couple to couple, but...
And it's pretty open, so they're okay with it. And
yeah,
so
and
when they go out...
sometimes it involves sex, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just like having the autonomy to go on a coffee date with someone that's like also romantic, but not, it just depends.
Oh, wow.
She makes me wish I was 25 again.
I don't know. I don't know.
So how do you feel about that?
My mind changes all the time. I met somebody I went to Mardi Gras in New Orleans in the February before the pandemic started. So it started in March, and I went to Mardi Gras.
So you missed it.
So I met this boy. He was in
a boy. Oh my God! Okay, go on.
He was in a jazz band playing the saxophone on Frenchman, and we hit it off. But he lives in LA. Long story short, I ended up in LA at the beginning of the pandemic because I was trying to get down to Mexico for something, and everything shut down, and so I got stranded in California. Not stranded. My family's from
With
there.
him?
He invited me to his the last show before everything in Los Angeles shut down. He was performing with the brass band down there.
Oh my God.
And we ended up like hanging out. First it was like 2 days, and then everything was shutting down. And a week went by, and before you know it, I've been there 6 months.
And you were with him?
Yeah, and my folks lived about an hour south, so I'd go kind of back and forth.
Okay, and so tell me, how did that go during the pandemic, dating him?
Well, so he had just gotten out of a 5-year relationship because he wanted to be in a non-monogamous relationship, and his partner didn't. And so going into dating him, I knew that, and I also wasn't looking for anything serious with him. Like, we had a lot of chemistry, but it wasn't aligned in a lot of ways. But it was really fun, and we kind of fell in love, and it was really weird falling for someone knowing that it probably wasn't going to work out.
It's called lust.
It's called what?
Lust.
Lust, yeah. Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of that. And
well, now I have a question real quick.
Go ahead.
I'm going to let you finish, but I'm curious. So are you saying that this gentleman you were dating had another partner?
Well, that's the thing. So the pandemic had just started. And especially in LA was one of those places that like fully shut down. Mm-hmm. And so he wasn't seeing anyone else out of the fact that like, one, I was distracting his life big time, but also we weren't even allowed, like there's nowhere to go. We were just home or in the park riding bikes. LA was creepy. I mean, it was a ghost town. There's a 5-lane highway called the 5, and there was just no one on it. There's nothing to do. And so when the world started to open back up again, and we revisited that conversation of like, okay, now we can see other people, it was an adjustment.
Okay, so it sounds like, if I'm hearing correctly, you kind of occupied each other's time for a while. Yes. Because it was a pandemic. Mm-hmm. Now, if it wasn't the pandemic, do you think you would have stayed around very long? No. Okay, what's the answer?
I feel like no.
No?
That was what was so beautiful about it, though.
That's
like
true.
I got to know someone in such a different way than I would have had we not been, like, actually, it was like we were stranded on an island together.
Okay, excuse me, but we're in the middle of a conversation, Jim.
Yeah, so I know.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, no, that's pretty interesting. What do you think of that, Jim?
I agree with her 100%, except I didn't date during the pandemic.
No?
No, I had, there was this one lady that I liked being around, but I had a hard time being able to be around her because she was with somebody else. And, so, but I started seeing this nurse before the pandemic, and, but see, most women over 50, you'll see what I mean when you get older.
No, wait, what are you talking about?
Well, they turn into depressed alcoholics.
Most women over 50?
No, over 50. Well, what happens is I don't know, a lot happens in their life. They have kids, and they've been through a couple husbands and a couple boyfriends, and by the time you get to them, the rage is there, and I never had kids, and so, and most women have had kids that are over 50. So, and I got to stay away from the youngins because, if I'm having a stroke, they won't know what to do, but mom will, so. But she drank too much, and she took Adderall and Xanax, and she was only fun after 1 or 2 drinks, but then to the fourth or fifth drink, she's turned into this monster.
Okay, well, I have a question for you then. So were you dating, well, maybe not so just seeing this woman, being consistent with one woman. So your outlook was just about having fun with her. It wasn't about getting serious or finding commitment.
I was really considering that. I mean, because I did like her a lot, you know, and but she just she was having a relationship with alcohol.
Oh.
So she couldn't have a relation until you give up your vices. You can't have a relationship with a person if you're having a relationship with addictions, you know. So she wasn't willing to give up her addictions. So that made her aggressive to more or less say, I'm more interested in the relationship with my addictions than I am with you.
I see. So it sounds like you have really good boundaries. Boundaries are important in even if they're nonchalant relationships.
She could drink all she wanted to, as far as I was concerned. I don't judge. Just be nice, you know.
Right.
But most addicts don't know how to be nice because that comes first.
I see what you're saying.
You come next.
How about you, Monica? Did you have any kind of experiences with men that drank and did drugs during the datings?
I mean, during the pandemic, it's funny you should mention that because the first 6 months of it, I previously to the pandemic was working full-time as a birth doula. So I was on call.
What's that?
A birth doula. I have clients and pregnant people who have me assist their birth. So either home birth, hospital birth, or a birthing center.
I thought they were called something.
They're like midwives,
Yeah, midwife.
But
Yeah.
clients hire me individually to attend their birth no matter where it is.
Wow, that's impressive, actually.
Thank you. But I was on call for like 2 years, so I wasn't drinking at all. I didn't have much of a social life. I mean, I did, but it wasn't what I wanted it to be. Anyway, so I had saved up for like a long time to go down to study indigenous midwifery in Mexico, the March before the pandemic started. So I had all this time and money put away, and then everything just stopped.
Wow.
And so when I arrived in Los Angeles and I was meeting this boy, yeah, there was a lot of alcohol involved because we had nothing to do.
Yeah.
And
Is he a nice drunk at least?
yes, he's wonderful.
Yeah.
He's wonderful. Like he's a musician. He's a full-time artist down in LA and very like kind. I would describe him on like the feminine side, just sweet, sweet, sweet. But there was a lot of alcohol involved, and I think that was part of what kept us together for so long. Was
So I want to know how did you end up?
So it was like a girl.
No, I mean we could get into what genders are in art, but no.
How did it end up? How did you split up? How did you gradually kind of leave each other? Was it
That was always
bad?
so
Was
dramatic.
it good?
And whenever there was alcohol involved, it was even more dramatic. Because it was always, my gut knew that I just needed to get out of California. And that I just needed to get back to New Mexico and start working again and all of that. But we had gotten so close so quickly. And he knew so much about all the facets of my life. And we spent so much time together. It was heartbreaking. And it was heartbreaking because, I mean, I'm a Scorpio, and so I don't know if you adhere to astrology, but, like, I have trouble letting people go. Even if I know they're not right for me, I love people so deeply. But we separated. What were you going to say?
See, wait, I just want to confirm with you,
Yes.
Jim, this young, beautiful woman here in front of you, she's young, and she still has the heart to love and move forward and see things
wonderful?
beautiful.
Oh,
Now you see, now you understand why.
Wait till you get our age.
Okay, well, how about this? I really admire that you brought up the rage because one of my teachers, she's a midwife up in Taos, and she talks a lot about sacred rage as it applies to women or women identifying people, that it's something that will build up and become toxic if you do not have an outlet. And given like a lot of the circumstances that women have been subjected to, it does happen. Yeah. And it's really scary and sad. I plan on peaking when I'm like 70.
Nice. I think you're an amazing lady already, just the little that I know you so far. So I like her intuition. I like the way she sees things and she's able to process. That's wonderful to see that.
Yeah, if I was 25, I would have never let you leave LA.
I'm almost 28.
Oh, 28.
So, anyways, now what happened from that point on? Did you date a few more?
I did.
Okay, tell me about the next one.
You know, who was next? Most of the subsequent people were mostly just lovers.
Nice.
Mostly people I met on Hinge. And I really struggle to connect with people, to be honest with you.
Really?
Connect with men. I have a lot of friends who are women, and like they're very sweet, intimate relationships. But I feel like, especially a lot of the men I meet my age are just either don't meet me. I don't need like perfection, but just like basic things. I'm not trying to mother.
Well, they say
anybody.
that women are a lot more mature than men. And the generation also may have changed. Like, so men like Jim, for example, he has the old school mentality. And please let me know if I'm wrong in any way. But I tend to see that men in the older generations, they're more, they'll pay for everything. Mm-hmm. They take care of the woman, make sure she's in her car. They open the doors, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like over the last, it seems like from people that I've talked to, they're not as gentleman style, if
like
you know what I'm
chivalrous,
saying. Like they should be. You know what I mean? I don't know if they should be anymore,
Because
but
everything's becoming equal. Everybody wants to be an equal society. You know that I think young guys, they're getting the attitude of, well, everything has to be. Everyone, they want to be equal now, so let them open the door for me. Let them pay for dinner for me. So I'm
right?
saying,
No, I know what you're saying.
It's the attitude that a lot of young guys get by talking to them, and even there was no, I better not say that. But that's the attitude that young.
Yeah,
young
that
guys
actually
get.
does
Yeah.
make a lot of sense because it seems like more and more girls in your generation,
A lot of
they're
feminists.
single
Yeah.
and they're not having babies. They're more into their career, more self-sufficient, and also they're seeing that, like, for example, even women tend to rather be with women, for whatever reason, mainly because we're softer, we understand each other, and I'm pretty sure it's the same thing for men as well. But dating is dating. It don't matter what sex you are, male or female. I think that it's our presence. In all reality, it's the synergy or the connection that you have that makes staying in that environment pleasant. Pleasurable.
Totally.
That makes you stay, even if it's dating for a week or a month.
Well,
Would
that's
you
why
agree?
in wedding vows, they should change it. Instead of like until death does us part, or does you part.
Yeah.
Because they stand there in front of their God, they stand there in front of their friends and their family, and say that to each other and look at each other in the eye. And they should just change it instead of till death do us part, till I get sick of his ass, or till I get sick
Really
of her.
though. Really though.
Yeah, and
It's a lofty
yeah,
commitment.
it is, and then half the people, or 3/4 of the people, they're just words, because within 5 years,
Well, it's
Why
nice
do you
to
think
know what
that?
you're
Wait,
gonna
I want
want.
to know why he thinks that.
Yeah.
What is your perspective on that? Why do you think people are that way?
because people, especially men and women really don't have a whole lot in common, So as they get older, women do mature. I always, when I was driving for Lyft for a while, I would be talking to a younger couple in the car, and I'd tell her, I go, well, she'd say he's immature, and I said, well, you know what? I says, see how he is now? Well, 20 years from now, he's going to be just like that still. You know, he might have a better job or whatever the case may be, but I go, if you can't handle it now, I said, leave him right now, because he's not going to change. He's going to be immature. He's going to be, you know, and you're going to have to live with that, or just be done.
Do you believe in growth? Do you think people can grow out of, like, I mean, we grow, right?
Well,
like,
yeah, some people do, but some people, you know, a lot of people, they want to be them, they can't be themselves because they're trying to please the person that they're with. So they just can't, you know, do what they want, you know, like, not like cheating or anything. You know, I never cheated when I was in a few long-term relationships. I didn't even think about it. The only thing I cared about was maybe getting out and playing poker, or, you know, hanging out with some guys every now and then. But you know, cheating wasn't it. And with men and women, you know, guys don't like sitting there going to the mall, you know, while women shop. They act like they might.
I don't like going to the mall.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. I mean, in general, you know, guys just like on their days off, sometimes they just want to lay around and do nothing. You know?
I think you make a really good point that you should leave somebody if it's not working, because we should never hold out for change.
Right, but people stay with each other because of kids. They'll have a kid, and then they'll see it's going south, and they should have never had a kid, but they stay together because of the kid. You know, and because it's not about you anymore, it's about your spawn. So, and you know, just like me, I never had kids, but I have dogs. You know, and my dogs, I put my dogs before myself. You know, you never understood.
Well, I just, when it comes to pets, I think that's a big plus for dating. Like, they should, you know, if you're dating to have somebody as a life partner, you have to determine whether pets or children are part of it. Especially now, today, we have so many people with children that are single or have pets that are single. So, I mean, it's a mix of a lot of things for dating, and I think it's important to address those things while dating. Well, do you agree? Have you been doing those things? Like, when you're dating, do you kind of do like an interview kind of survey in the back of your mind?
Always. If they don't like my pets, bye.
It's most people that are divorced, you know, like as you get older, if you're still single when you get older.
Probably will be.
Or if you get married and you get divorced, or hopefully you stay married. And,
why hopefully?
But if you get divorced later, you'll run into guys that are older, like you will be at the time, and you know, a lot of people. And if you don't have any kids, they probably will. So you got to deal with the ex-husbands. Or if you're a guy, you got to deal with as a guy, I have to deal with the ex-husbands, and then you'd have to deal with the ex-wives, and one of those women in there are still have an emotional rap for their ex.
Yeah, I've seen that all play out way differently. I think it's really hard, for my generation at least, to make any sweeping claim about men or women, because there's a huge movement that's deconstructing gender. So it's so difficult to make a generalized assumption. But I will say, anecdotally, my sister, who got married when she was 21, she's 2 years older than me, was married for 5 years to a man. They did the Peace Corps together. During that time, they were down in the Dominican Republic. She realized she's gay. And so they...
Wait, hold on. I want to hear her.
And so she and him moved back, and instead of coming back to Southern California, they moved to San Francisco, where she could explore her sexuality. She wanted to be in a different city. San Francisco is like one of the gay capitals of the U.S. Long story short, after maybe 1 or 2 years of them trying to be either like a throuple, which is like a 3-person couple, or her dating women, it just didn't work out, and for a lot of reasons. But they ended up separating, and so they're divorced now. But I guess what I'm getting at, as far as like, you know, people getting older and dealing with other people and having kids and having pets. I mean, her ex-husband just dropped off their cat this last week at our house because he's moving somewhere that doesn't allow cats. But
Wait, is he going to pay child support?
Well, that's the thing. Dude, he's so petty. He, like, insisted that he take all the animals because she was, like, divorcing him for, like, her girlfriend or whatever. And then a couple months later, he was like, I can't afford these, whatever. I'm not going to talk smack on him.
But what's wrong with him? He should have turned that in his favor. She's going to have a girlfriend. That means I'll get to have two.
Well, they did date as a 3-person couple for a long time, but it just the dynamics.
And it's called frapple?
A throuple,
A throuple.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that was
called
such a thing.
Yeah, and
Wow.
so they tried to work it out, and they all went to therapy. I mean, they went the whole 9 yards because but at the end of the day, if you're not being yourself in a relationship, you're going to be miserable. And what I'm tracking with growth now, and I think it's really, I loved what you're saying, is like you should leave someone because you can't expect someone to change on your behalf. However, and this is what I've experienced in the last year of dating the pandemic, is there are people who identify as men that are doing their work right now. And it's really cool. I'm like trying so hard not to cuss because I actually cuss a lot.
What do you mean doing their work?
Doing the work to identify how they were experiencing trauma as a child or how they've experienced conditioning living in our society that's patriarchal. And they're actively deconstructing the ways that they cause harm or the ways that contribute to their immaturity. And it's not my job to hold someone's hand while they do that.
That's beautiful, actually.
It's not my job to be like, I'm going to show you how to not be a dickhead. But it's also beautiful to have witnessed people over the last year who are genuinely open to feedback, genuinely care about making women or femme people feel safe. And as far as like divorce and kid dynamics go, I have friends, close friends from high school across my whole life who genuinely appreciate their parents getting divorced.
Wow.
Had an incredible improvement in the quality of life once their parents got divorced. And of course, there's always a lot of therapy involved, a lot of guidance and mentorship involved. But I think really the structure around family dynamics is changing. I mean, I know of people who are co-parenting, which means that you're not married or sometimes you're not even romantically involved, but you both parent the same child, and then you're dating other people, and there's this whole family, like a village raising a child. And this is becoming quite normal. And I see it, and I mean, I was just at a barbecue where there was this kind of dynamic this last weekend at a baby shower, and it was so cool to see.
Because they're more civil, they're able to comprehend that, hey, it didn't work out, but the kids need us, we need to be sane for them.
Open dialogue,
and
respect.
It's great because in my generation, things were not spoke of, and they were not put on the table for us to kind of process as children. And I do see a lot more healthier relationships with ex-husbands and wives.
And that's fine when their kids are under 18, but the problem is when you get older, when the kids get over 18, and mom still wants to hang out with the ex-husbands and the kids on their birthdays. And I think that's where you draw the line.
What do you mean?
Well, you got, let's say you had a kid that was 21, and it was her birthday or his birthday. And your ex-husband said, hey, it's her birthday, his birthday, whatever. Let's all get together for his, 22nd or 20th birthday. And it's like, no, you left that life for a reason. It's okay when they're young because they're adolescents, they're under 18 years old. They deserve to be, with their mom and dad or whatever. But when they're over 18 years old, you divorce, you separated for a reason. And you don't want to be dragging your old life into your new life. You have to be able to shut the doors to open the new door. If you can't do that,
I think I hear you saying that it seems like counterproductive, but I also see that whoever the child is should have the full, at the end of the day, especially if they're over 18, they should really have full autonomy over who.
And here's my perspective on it.
You have to think of the partner, the other person involved. It's like, I don't want to be, look, I married you for a reason. I didn't marry your ex-wife, and and your past.
So here's what's going on.
Yeah.
So you have the old way of thinking, right? Because obviously he's in a different generation than you are. And his mindset doesn't really understand that whole dynamic that you're in now. But what she's saying is this, Jim, is that it's beautiful to see that parents are able to celebrate parties together, because eventually they're going to have grandkids, they're going to have Christmas stuff, and you know how nice it is to actually have just being good around the whole family, whether it's like, for example, if I was married, I had my husband and my ex-husband and my children, and I know it may sound strange, but I'm actually one of those families. Like my daughters, we're all going to Hawaii together, and I'll be going with my boyfriend, you know, so, and my ex-husband will be there because, you know, it's our family. Yeah. So we're going on a whole family trip to Hawaii, and my ex-husband will be there along with my boyfriend.
That seems really reasonable.
Yeah, so that's going to be a really nice time. I mean, we get along great. There's no hostility. There's no uncomfortable. It's not uncomfortable. We've been doing a lot of family get-togethers on a regular basis. So it's actually kind of strange for you, but yeah, it's evolved. Life has changed. And I think that's what she's saying, because she's a daughter. She has parents. Are they married?
My parents are still together, and they've gone through a lot of things that I thought for sure would separate them, but
Well, it's all good when you're under 18.
But I liked her point of view. She was happy with it. She saw how beautiful it was in her perspective.
Well,
so
yeah, but the kids were under 18. Right?
Okay, so before we lose focus, I want to know more. Okay, so are you currently dating anybody right now?
I just, for the first time in like 3 years, mind you, I've been dating like the musician, like I've gone on many Hinge dates, but I just met someone a couple weeks ago. I really have a crush on, and that's like the first time in a long time.
Well, that's nice. I like it. Okay, so tell me what you like about him.
I don't have to explain myself.
Oh, good. Now, I do want to ask another question that's kind of, I've been wanting to ask this since you got here. Okay. So when the pandemic, like dating a new guy during the pandemic, knowing that this virus is out there, right? When you decide to meet up, do you guys talk about like how you're going to social distance, or you're not social distancing? Are you going to wear a mask? Do you get COVID shots? I mean, do you get a COVID test? Tell me what.
Now all the dating apps have a little section, because the dating apps, it's like, how tall are you? What's your job? Blah, blah, blah. And now there's a little window that you have the option to check whether or not you're vaccinated.
Interesting.
For me, that's not something that's a make it or break it for me. But as far as meeting up with people, I mean, I guess I can't say anything too woo-woo. I'm in medical school, so clearly, like, I'm a very science-based person. But I think there's also a lot of, like, really warped information around what was, like, how transmission worked.
Yeah.
And so when I was meeting someone for the first time, it's like, have you had symptoms for the last couple of days? Are you hanging out with people who might be hanging out with people who've had symptoms for the last couple of days? But honestly, for the most part, it hasn't. I mean, it's not like I'm meeting like a different person every day of the week. You know, I meet someone like.
So what I'm hearing is that maybe you are not really worried about the pandemic. It's not affecting you like it does affect some people.
Right.
Because some people are terrified, right?
Terrified, crippling,
and they probably
anxiety.
won't even date. I don't even think there's people that are actually dating because of that reason.
Totally.
Well,
so
they won't get vaccine. And the people that are getting sick right now are people that aren't vaccinated.
I mean, my friends who have been vaccinated are my friends who are also getting sick again, because they're the ones going to the most parties because they're all vaccinated, and then they're all getting really sick.
They're not getting really sick, though, are they? Are they really?
I mean, not like hospitalized, because most of my friends are my age, but yeah, they're getting really sick.
Yeah.
Where they're at home in bed and having
like,
to work.
Really, barely, like, not okay. Like COVID, not like bad flu,
Yeah, okay.
And how about for you, Jim? If you were to go on a date, how would you approach a woman if she, because I know you don't do any dating apps, right?
That'd be easy for me. I'd be like, okay, well, we could have sex from 6 feet away. You get in the bathtub, I'll stand over here. And
Oh, my Lord.
you lather yourself up, and I'll watch.
Okay, so you're confusing dating with something else. I meant
Well,
just dating. I don't know about, I guess, is dating like going from dating to that right
It
away?
depends. I mean, people are really transparent about what they're looking for. That's the nice part about dating apps, I guess, is some people, like, there is a prompt on a lot of them. It's like, I'm looking for, and some people fill in something casual, and that just means usually sex.
Interesting.
I will say that this last year, I've had the most, like, pre-date phone calls where, like, you match with someone, maybe you start chatting, and then they're like, oh, do you want to chat on the phone? And that's something that I never did before the pandemic.
So you can go on a date site basically and say, okay, I want just a date for tonight, or a long term or short term, or just friends.
I mean, Hinge it's kind of like Tinder, but less, what's the word? Tinder's kind of like for hookups.
Okay,
like,
I see. Hookups in hookups.
Whereas like Hinge is it's still a dating app where you're swiping and then you have to match with somebody to start having a conversation. But you're basically just swiping through profiles and then you get matched. And I would say I don't really do a lot of swiping. I'll like log into the app once or twice a week and see who's liked me. And most of the time it's like, no.
Oh, nice. Is there like an age group that
you can set your age parameters. So I think I have mine. I'm 20. I'm almost 28, and I think I have mine set to like age 25 to 30.
Are there older gentlemen on there like Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of that, Jim? Would that be something you'd like to do?
No, that's how I ended up here. It's on a dating site. I won't do a dating site again. I mean,
Did you have a bad experience?
Let's just say they should call it mismatch.com.
But I feel like there's a difference between dating apps and dating websites. No?
Well, what do you mean? It's basically the same thing.
I feel like they're so different. I've never used a dating website though.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been on a dating website in years.
Okay, so let me ask you another question. Both of you actually will. So, right now you're currently liking someone, and would that be something you'd like as a long-term, short-term, or?
I'm in a really weird spot where I know for my next semester of school, I need to be in Mexico for a year, doing a year down there. And so I'm in this place of like knowing that there's some temporality to whatever I decide to pursue right now. But I've also loved like the excitement of getting to know someone that you actually like, and so I'm just kind of like, whatever.
Maybe
happens.
you could date in Mexico.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be fun. What part of Mexico?
It's in Guadalajara.
Oh, nice. Beautiful place.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, you're so lucky.
I am. I'm really fortunate.
And how about for you, Jim?
I want to go to Hawaii.
You want to go to Hawaii? Okay. You want to date in Hawaii? No?
Go ahead. What were you going to ask me?
No, I was just wondering if you would. Are you interested in still dating? Like now? Are you looking for long term, short term?
Well, I have a really sick an old boxer right now, and so I'm just spending time with him, and he's had a big tumor taken out of him. He's 12 now, and so it's. When he's gone, then
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'll look at that again. But since the pandemic, I just after that experience with that nurse, and then
Did she put a sour taste in your mouth?
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, yeah, because I let my guard down, which I never do, I was always the guy that walked in front of women, never opened the door. I'd be like, hurry the fuck up, come on, But then when I met the nurse, I said, all right, I'm going to turn myself around, change, and I'm going to be the guy that opens the door and, holds her hand in public and all that other stuff. And then she told me I was too sappy, and I said, what? I says, my exes would have given their kidneys and their liver and their right arm for me to do what I'm doing right now.
Wow.
And she goes, well, I'm not your exes. And she goes, I don't remember what she said, but yeah, I just, when you're, like I said, when you're having a relationship with something else, it's pretty hard to focus in on even if it's pets.
Right.
Or sometimes divorced women with their kids. They're married to their kids.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would if I was you, I wouldn't lose hope, because you're still a genuine person too. You're funny. You have a lot of great qualities, and I wouldn't stop dating. I would continue to see, what there might be out there. There's so many lonely people that have been stuck at home through the pandemic, and maybe now, they may, after listening to us, take that chance, because I think it's important.
I too have realized, because I was pretty obsessed with how narrow the dating pool was in Albuquerque the first year I was here. I got depressed about it. Like, I never was meeting people I connected with, blah, blah, blah. And I let it go. And this last year and a half, I've become so focused on myself and, really, I go to therapy every week. I get body work. I focus on just, all the alignment of who is Monica and who is she becoming. And I now, attract way too many people, because as soon as you...
But you're attracting good people.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
And I really think that when you're young and you're vibrant and you're, that's a time to explore your options. Mm-hmm. I'm just glad that, women your age are now taking the care that they need for themselves. Mm-hmm. So that way they can be the best, not only for themselves, but their partner. Yeah. And I know that the man that you meet, he's going to be a lucky man or a woman, whichever you prefer. And same for you, the man or woman in your life.
Look at me, right?
I'm just saying, we live in a different time. So we have to be open to everything.
I'm trying to quit,
Yeah. Well, either way, I do want to say thank you for being on my show today. It means so much to me. Next month, I am going to have another girl on my show that I wanted to have today, but unfortunately she was out of town dating. She went out of the country to date.
Sometimes you gotta do that.
I think she exhausted her resources here. She probably said, I'm going to try something completely different. And culture is really different, because when you're dating outside of your culture, you have to learn a whole different person, because, if you want to, synchronize or adapt or have some kind of connection, it could be very beautiful, because you're constantly learning about the person. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see her and meet with her and see how her time went. But anyways, we're out of time. But is there anything else you'd like to say before we leave?
No. Stay safe, people.
Stay safe.
On the door there, is that your you training for Hawaii?
Yes, I am actually going to go to Hawaii and live it up. Yeah, I'm excited.
With your boyfriend.
Yes.
Very excited.
Yes. Oh. He was actually
how romantic.
Someone I met when I was 15. He was in the Navy.
Wow.
And I was 14. And he left to serve in Japan. And during that time, when he left, my parents decided to move to New Mexico. There was no cell phones, no way of getting in touch with him. So until we got internet, 30 years later, my daughter said, "Who was he? Let me see if we could find him." Oh, and yes, I found him after 30 years. It wasn't peaches and cream, but really cool. Because 30 years is a long time being separated from somebody, and then him living his life and being married, having kids, me being married, having kids, going through my life, we're two different people now, thinking that, oh yeah, here he is 15 years later. It's not always that easy.
But there's soul ties, though.
You're so lucky.
Anyways, thank you, Jim. And thank you, Monica. I want to say Monica, but it's
that's
actually
the English
Monica.
Pronunciation. I just prefer the Spanish.
I like the Spanish. Monica, I love it, love it. But anyways, thank you again. And for those of you watching, I hope you enjoyed our show and look forward to my next show next month. As you know, I am the co-host. Bye.